just gets out there a little bit. But, I started thinking of the stars. Well, the stars are in the sky, but I don't feel any distance between them and me either, any more than I feel a distance between that door over there. They feel like they're within me and I'm within them. And then I started seeing the celestial level of the heavens. They expanded to the whole universe. And soon as I started having the gall to think that I am also the universe and the universe is me, I got the sense that this cosmic being got interested in me.
Welcome to Letting Go and the Greatest Secret, where we explore the end of your suffering and the beginning of lasting happiness. I'm Hale Dwoskin, and today we'll be joined with Harri Aalto. Harri Aalto is an artist, business owner, and author of The Landscape of Enlightenment. He speaks about how the self-realized state is not only normal, but is also rich in beauty, love, and knowledge. Harri connects the inner and the outer experience so clearly that it will inspire that delightful experience in you.
I took a long time going public. As you can see, I'm not a spring chicken or anything. So, but I've had a really good time opening up about experiences. In fact, there's that old saying that a teacher gets more than the student, and I finally, after all these years, begin to understand that.
Oh yes, I've had that.
You've known that forever, but I'm a slow learner,
Well, no, but you were smart. You were just living your life from this expanded perspective. You didn't need to shout it from the rooftops.
Well, I guess I started having, looking back on it, as a little kid, I had all kinds of experiences, but what the heck, they were just, normal, right? Everybody had them. Of course they had them. How could they not have these? And I think that's true too, that I do believe that children and kids, they live this now moment all the time. I have a grandchild, I look at her and man, there isn't anything more important than her toe at the moment she's looking at it, right? That's really an enlightened kind of experience, but they don't know it. They're living a very natural life. And in a way, nothing has changed much for me other than my understanding. From early childhood, I had this light and divine experiences, and I had celestial perception, and I had bliss, but I didn't call it celestial perception. I didn't call it bliss. I didn't call it anything. It's just there, all around, everywhere, but I didn't get it. What was it? Didn't care. Didn't want to know. It was just there. Just like, I'm sitting in this room, for me to start describing this room to you, just there. And I guess that brings me to the point that talking about these things, just talking about them and understanding your experience. When I started understanding what I was experiencing in relation to other people and historical figures and this and that, I started saying, whoa, maybe there's something there. Maybe this is significant. And if people aren't experiencing that, the question came up, why not? What the heck? It's more natural than, say, up and down life that most of us lead anyway.
That's right.
That inner
totally
life,
natural.
It's there. It's natural. It's and just to even know, understand that you're an infinite, eternal being. Man, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
that's a big deal. It takes the fear out of life, and all the things that everybody goes through, the ups and downs and depressions and this and that. Just knowing that there's this natural state of infinity within you. And then over time to know that that infinity isn't just in you, it's out of you too, it's everywhere.
Yes.
It's in your environments around you, all these, you'll have to excuse me, my wife started calling me yak a lot now because I talk so much. I thought that was really cute.
My wife has terms of endearment for me too.
Like that.
Actually, she loves the work that we do, and she's experiencing it as well. So it's just beautiful. Great. It's a wonderful thing to share.
And you know, this idea of self-realization or enlightenment and all that kind of stuff, I don't think that ever happened to me. I don't ever feel enlightened. And if I do have a new experience and it expands and it's wonderful or this or that, it always feels like it's always been there. So if I thought enlightenment exists at the moment I got it, it disappeared. The feeling of being enlightened or special or this or that went away.
Yes.
Stopped being there. So in a sense, it was more a question of stuff disappearing than in many ways now having a bigger perspective, because the bigger perspective for me, it didn't necessarily feel bigger. It just felt more natural and simple.
Yes.
You agree with all that, right?
I do. It's the beauty of it. It's every time you see more clearly that which you are, it feels like it's always been that way. It's not new. It's just natural. I love it. I sometimes call it the natural state.
This kind of, and this term non-dual, I'd rather say all dual, but.
So explain that a little more. What do you mean by all dual?
Well, there's the other term, the no self experience.
Yes.
It's easier to understand for me, the all self experience. Mm-hmm. And that's what I mean, the all self. And
yes.
Certainly in some ways, I could say that my experience started inside. It felt inside. It wasn't inside, but it felt like it was my inner life. But there was never, as far as I can remember, much separation or wall or a veil between inside and outside. My senses are out there and they're bringing in information to me. And there was a progression in my life where I went from a state of this kind of totally innocent kidhood, and then I went into adolescence, and I went through a stage which you used this word witnessing, and I was a young teenager, and I started having this experience that there was this huge unbounded, or it wasn't even unbounded, it was just huge experience that was out there that wasn't connected to me, but it was there all the time. I was just smart enough, just barely smart enough to know that I was having that experience, even though it felt separate from me. So I knew, oh, wait a minute, that chipmunk out there isn't having that experience. I'm having that. So it must be connected to me. And it was big, it was light, it was there all night long. It was like, sometimes it was so bright, it was like there was car lights on my face all night long. It was just bright, bright, bright all the time. Then I'd wake up, it'd get a little less bright because I had to do stuff and this and that. But witnessing is a good term for that phase I went through, because it felt somehow separate from me. Mm-hmm. And then over time, that separation started disappearing. But it was so gradual. By the time the separation was gone, and I felt that the outside and the inside were the same, and there was a more beautiful perception along with it. It was just there. At some point, I started realizing that not everybody has that. Mm-hmm. But I pretty well kept quiet about it.
Yeah, well, that's probably smart.
And yes, I think it was smart. And I did once in a while talk about it, and people maybe wouldn't understand because I wasn't being clear about it.
Yes.
In any case, that separation between my outside experience, my inside experience, kind of melted or disappeared, or sort of there was this see-through quality that I was looking through, as if through this unbounded consciousness at the relative, the so-called relative.
Right.
It was there, but I was seeing through it.
Right.
And so I was living this life inside, outside, same. Then, I was a young man, I got married, and had a business, and that never went away. That kind of continuum, I guess you could call it a unified sense rather than a separate or witnessing state.
Yes.
Right. And I always had, even as a little kid, I had this sense that there must be a God or a goddess, something bigger than me. And then when I started having this witnessing experience, I said, hold it, folks. This isn't enough because this is empty. It's just a light. That can't be anything that special. It's just a big light, unbounded light, unbounded. I didn't think of it as awareness. I thought of it as light. So I started looking for God or goddess or it or whatever there was. A kid in high school asked me, so do you believe in God? I said, I'll let you know when I experience him, because I hadn't had that experience yet. I had a sense that there was something divine about human consciousness, because it was, at times, this inside experience was delightful, it was nice.
Yes.
I had a lot of bliss. Of course, being of a kind of a Finnish, Finnish background, Finns don't use that word bliss.
No, definitely not.
We're more like rocks and pine trees, We have
Right.
to develop smiling muscles. They're not
That's
there
right.
naturally.
Right.
You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and very typical. Yeah, there's this Finnish joke, this Finn loved his wife so much that he almost told her.
I can see why you kept quiet.
and I know, but it's so true. And, it's like one other Finnish joke. And that is, an exuberant Finn looks at the feet of the person he's talking to rather than his own feet.
Oh.
Because you're shy too, and quiet and stoic. Well, I didn't quite fit the mold, but my father, brother, everybody I knew, they do.
Yes. Yeah.
So I was talking about this progression. Do you want to add something, or should I just keep going?
Well, no, I think it's lovely that you're describing what you go through. It's interesting that, in my experience, this unfoldment takes a different look and feel through. There's certain things that are universal, like the sense of unicity or oneness,
Yes,
the sense of that there is only this one awareness.
Yes.
And what's unique, though, about what you're describing from my perspective is that most people, one is they don't start seeing it, consciously seeing it. A lot of people, when they start to see this, realize they always have been seeing it.
Yes.
Not just the awareness part, but other things. They were little clues early on.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. But the other thing that's universal is that the identity as just a limited body mind is either dropping away or has dropped away. But everything else is very varied in an exquisitely beautiful way. Has that been your experience too? Since you've come out, you've been talking to people and they've been having experience and sharing their experience. Has that been your experience too?
Yes, and yes and no, because there was always, and now always has been, a really deep sense that everything is that self, not just what I have inside, everything.
Yes, yes.
That unified sense wasn't for me just a feeling, it was a knowingness that was really tangible, which grew and grew until when this, I talked about the separation that I had. When that separation disappeared, there was a period of 3 or 4 years. I don't know if it's pertinent to other people. It was certainly pertinent to me. I went into this celestial awareness. It was overwhelming. It was like I was in heaven on earth. Unfortunately, I have a very understanding wife, and
that is fortunate.
Yes, very fortunate. And I've had the same wife for a long, long time. And but I went into the celestial perception where I started seeing, if you're Christian, you can call them angels. If you're Vedic, you can call them devas. Doesn't matter. But I saw these divine, luminous beings. They were all around me, everywhere, top, bottom. And I didn't care who they were or what they were. It was too beautiful, too divine, too just there. And I was so close to it. There was this transcendental field of pure silence, and it suddenly bubbled into this celestial field of experience. And it was just there all the time. And that went on for years. And I'm not going to get too much into it other than say it was overwhelmingly divine, beautiful. And there was Kundalini, this, that, all kinds of stuff, but it was never unpleasant. It was always unbounded. And then one day, after that went on for about 3 years, I certainly never expected anything to happen. I thought I'd be this impractical guy. Imagine a Finn getting into that state. That's almost heard. Come on. It doesn't happen.
Right.
Or at least they wouldn't
heard about
talk
it.
about it. And then one day, almost overnight, that sense of divinity, that sense of, there was no real one God there. There was millions of them everywhere, celestial. In any case, one day it almost disappeared. And I said to myself, what? This can't be happening. And so I looked closer. And then the next day I said, still not. This divinity stuff, this celestial perception was gone. I said, no way it's gone. Can't be gone. If that's the reality, but the reality is that there's this silence, this unbounded knower that knows himself, herself inside, and the first expression of that knower, the first expression of that bubbling ocean of consciousness is divine, then it didn't go away. Something's wrong with something's out of kilter here. Soon as I had that understanding, it all came back, but it didn't come back by itself this time. It came back with a unified sense of, there was this knowledge structure. I suddenly knew that that inside, or the structure of this divinity, of this divine stuff, was me, was the knower, was knowledge, was the structure of that unbounded absolute. It's interesting because there's a knower, there's intelligence to that experience. The intelligence, I am that. That somebody's having the experience, and that somebody is me. That intelligence is something special and specific because it's intelligence, it's knowledge. Yes. And when I could look at this unboundedness, and I could see bubbles in it, or waves. Easy analogy is the waves on an ocean. Now it's keeping in mind that I'm going to talk about the waves as if they're on the surface, but they weren't. They were throughout the whole ocean. But let's say I could see these bubbles, these waves on my ocean of consciousness. Then I started, nothing happened to the silence, nothing happened to the knowledge, nothing happened to the knower. But now I saw the celestial level of my consciousness in relation to that silence, within that silence, within that. I say silence. It wasn't really silence, but it's very still and very big and very much a knower. I know that I am that. And then when that celestial value became part of that see-throughness of the knower, it didn't dominate anymore.
Mm.
It didn't take over my life. I could be a normal person again.
That's great.
Fortunately, I was an artist, so I didn't have to be completely a normal person.
that is fortunate. It's a good thing you weren't an accountant.
Oh man, those zeros would have added up.
That's
so
beautiful.
And it went on from there.
Yes.
So now there was this unified sense. The celestial level of consciousness is still there. I can see it now. This is knowledge level, silence level, unbounded level. It's percolating into this more divine stuff. It's always there. And then I said to myself, self, what's up with the relative? What about my daily life? What about material existence? As soon as I started thinking about, there was already a feeling, a knowledge kind of connectedness between my the outside environment and my so-called inner environment. They were all sort of on the feeling level connected. And then I said, now you got this divine level. Surely this knowledge level and this divine level are the connecting links to the relative. It's kind of abstract, but doesn't matter.
No.
Right?
For me, it makes total sense. It does.
Okay, good. Okay, so I said to myself, well, what are all these beings or devas or gods or angels? What are they actually doing? They all seem so busy and happy, but they're busier than I am. They seem to have jobs.
And what did you find out?
Well, I found out that their jobs are the knowledge structure or the intelligence structure of my own consciousness. How can I put this so it doesn't sound funny? Where the guiding principles or were the reasons why all this stuff was going. I wasn't saying I was responsible for it, but I was connected to whatever thoughts a human being that's awake has. This divine level is orchestrating or connecting or making the soup of consciousness or the laws of nature, creating the physical body, the physical universe, this, that, the other thing. I won't get too much into that, but that's what I saw. That's what they're doing. They're creating this creation. As soon as I said that, now this must be how to get to God or goddess, because these must be, like in business, you have the president and then you got
right.
people under the president. They're doing all the busy stuff. They're doing all the work. The president of a big corporate, you're not going to meet him or her. She's out there somewhere, just kind of thinking, I say, well, maybe God's like that. Maybe this celestial level of my consciousness will lead me to God, lead me to something even greater than the absolute, if there is such a thing, or this silence or this immense totality that exists in me. And I didn't mean to be so abstract today, but you brought it out in me, so I'm blaming you. I'm blaming you for the whole thing.
Oh yeah, I'm used to that. So please go right ahead. Blame me.
Well, a little more practical too, and I got some insights.
Well, we can cycle back to the practical.
We can cycle back. I'll just
let
finish
yourself. Yeah.
All right. So I started looking at this divine field, and I started seeing the relative in terms of kind of being so closely connected to me that there's no difference between me, kind of like this room, there's walls, ceiling, floor, this and that, but then there's the space in the room. They're made by the walls. There's no space. If you took the walls away, the space would remain, but it wouldn't be a house. It wouldn't be my home. It would just be a space. But because the walls are there and the ceiling's there and the floor's there and it's beautiful, I said, that must be how the divine is. That must be this, all these heavens that exist. They must be the structures, the rooms, the ceiling of my existence, of human existence, of the earth. Maybe that's true of the universe too. And I started experiencing not just that, this gets out there a little bit, but I started thinking of the stars. Well, the stars are in the sky, but I don't feel any distance between them and me either, any more than I feel a distance between that door over there. They feel like they're within me and I'm within them. And then I started seeing the celestial level of the heavens. They expanded to the whole universe. And soon as I started having the gall to think that I am also the universe and the universe is me, I got the sense that this cosmic being got interested in me.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing I've realized and realized early is that there was always somebody, an individual, a person, a personality having these experiences, not some abstract knowingness kind of guy or blissful kind of guy, but there was a person.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously everybody's going to be different. Everybody's an individual, but because that isn't talked about much, to me, it's really important. It's important that I'm the one that feels infinite. I'm the one that is absolute. And I'm the one that's relating to you and my family and the environment.
Sure.
And I don't relate to it quite the same way you do.
Right,
You
right.
relate to it a little bit different. Same principles, maybe, underneath, but very different. And I said, okay. And one thing I also realized, not getting lost in any of the experiences, whether it's the absolute or the silence or the non-dual aspect, not having the individual totally lost in that experience was critical for my eternity and experience. Same with the divine. When I was totally involved in the divine, everything, nothing else mattered. It was just... So when I stopped getting totally overshadowed by the divine, then I could have a bigger experience, a more unified. Same with the unity. Same with the universe. Same with the devas, the gods, this, that. Not getting totally lost in the experience gave me the appreciation of the experience even more and more. The relative is the same. Most people live their lives how? They get lost in their regular lives. The self is lost.
Yes.
And they look at this, they look at that, they become just that.
Right.
Nothing else. We'll get into that after I finish this God thing, which I'm almost done.
Good.
And I don't consider myself a religious person. I'm not, Catholic or anything. I'm not a Hindu. I'm not anything. I'm just who I am. But that doesn't mean I don't believe in a God or a supreme being. My mind told me, okay, so if let's say, just like a human being, we as a society, we make society, we build buildings, we make bridges, we make trains, we're the boss. We do all this stuff. And there's a hierarchy to it. There's the president of the country or whatever, and he or she is the leader. Now, on the divine level, it certainly appeared that way to me too. There were lesser's a bad word, but beings that influenced less and beings that influenced more. Surely there's a supreme value of that too. I wanted to know. Now, I was smart enough to know I don't have the opportunity to become God. That position's taken.
Right.
I wasn't that naive. And so I had this, I said, how can I get closer to God? It's not something I can do. I realized it's something that has to happen based on who I am, what I experience, and if this God or goddess can get interested in me because I have similarities to him and her. It's just like, if you like somebody, you're going to want to have a relationship with that person.
Right.
If you have a natural dislike for that person because your personalities don't match, you're going to go the other way, and that other person will go the other way. So I'm smart enough to know that if you want to know somebody on a supreme level, you're going to have some supreme qualities, even if they're human. They have to be qualities that attract the creator. And there did come a time some years ago where I began to have an experience of God. And because I had gone through these experiences, getting overshadowed here, getting overshadowed there, and then it all melding together into one big experience, then I had the same experience with God. I can get so close to God. I can get closer to God if I don't get lost in it. If I get lost in it, I'm gone. I'm not prepared to do that, not even for God. So in any case, that's how I look at the whole phase of human existence. To me, this whole creation is what? It's a gateway to higher and higher, more and more expanded values. Whether you're meditating, whether you're doing mindfulness, whether you're doing the Sedona techniques or anything else, they're all, even regular life without any techniques, is taking you in that direction. Just doing it kind of slowly, very slowly. But the key to me is not getting lost in any of that. Any of these processes, so lost that you lose the self, you lose the experience of the even pure consciousness as an experiencer. That's me. I'm experiencing pure consciousness. Even as abstracted as it is, as unbounded as qualityless that it is, then I'm still having the experience. And if I'm having the experience, then my senses are having the experience, my body's having the experience, my individuality, it's all of me is having that experience. The sum total of who I am is having that experience. Same is true of God. So all these layers are being had by an individual. I'm running out of gas here. It's time for you to talk.
So thank you for sharing that. I do believe that people will find that fascinating to hear that. I've heard pieces of that in some of the other interviews, but I'm glad you shared the whole thing because it's beautiful. So for our listeners and people watching, it's going to be video and audio. So,
okay,
what are some practical things about, not practical about life, although that may come up, but practical about this? What do you advise people who are wanting to discover their truth of who they are, or the truth?
And I knew I would get there. So most of my talks have been just like what I did, right? I just go through this thing, and kid, this, that, girl, boom, then there's God at the end.
Right.
But many people are going through all kinds of stuff. And I'm saying, so Harry, do you have anything to say to those people? And I said, well, what I have this understanding that I can trace where this stress comes from. I can see it, where it comes from, why it's stressful, why depression and anxiety and anger and fear and all. I can see where they come from. I said, do I dare tell people this?
Sure.
This isn't the medieval night. Nobody's going to get crucified anymore. Not that. And
that's the Finn speaking.
Oh yeah. Well, and there's, you have this thing about a secret, right?
Yes.
And everything to me is, I'm secretive, or was secretive, not anymore. And then let's say that I'm watching this ocean I'm going to simplify it. I'm going to say the ocean has a surface and it has waves, and that's your consciousness. Okay. Now, if you're having an experience of the ocean, pure consciousness, unboundedness, that silence, stillness that is in you, at the same time that wave is coming up, then that wave will continue to have that stillness, expansion, and knowledge to it on its entire projection or trajectory to conscious awareness, and it will not create any kind of stress, even though it's an individual wave. Now, if you're having that wave, there's no pure consciousness, there's no unboundedness. And that wave is separate from all the other waves in the ocean. And that wave, in its separate entity, in its smallness, comes up into conscious life. It can come up because it's not connected to the base, it's not connected to the source, it's not connected to the other waves, it's not connected to the ocean. It's small. It could be anxiety, it could be stress, it could be anything. It'll settle down after time, but that's what it is. Now, having said that, I'm not saying that every wave or every thought or every impulse or every emotion that you have will become, candy floss and perfect.
Mm-hmm.
What I am saying is if that ocean of consciousness has been developed through techniques or process or prayer or meditation or TM or anything, if it's in your life to the degree that it does not disappear while these impulses from your pure consciousness are rising up, then even the more individualized or narrow or negative thoughts and feelings you have will be in relation to that ocean. In other words, they will not overshadow that knower who knows he's or she's infinite and eternal. That's my secret that I'm giving out.
No, that's beautiful. That's really,
and I've
well
never
said.
really talked about it this way much, so I'm a little new at this one.
No, but it's good. It's good because it's wonderful to hear other people's experiences, but people tend to put, especially if they've had an exalted experience like you have, they tend to put the person up on a pedestal and they go, well, that's not going to happen for me. But what you've given them is something very practical. If you, to the degree that you're aware of that truth of who you are, whatever degree you are,
yes,
if you allow, if you nurture that and you keep your attention on that, and you allow that to be part of your human experience, not see them as two, but as one,
yes.
then you don't, the human experience gets, the experience of it becomes lighter, freer, more enjoyable.
Yes.
It's not isolated.
And the ups and downs of life don't go away. I'm still aging, look, I got white hair, whatever, right? And I got wrinkles, they're going to continue to happen.
Right.
But let's say they're happening within the ocean of your own consciousness.
Right.
And you're now smart enough through your connectedness with this continuous feeling of infinity to know that these are temporary phenomena. You're an eternal, infinite being, and that's what counts.
Right. Definitely.
That's what counts.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you said it very well too. I like the way you said it. That was great.
So, what other things? So that's beautiful. And what about someone who comes to you and says, "I'm not seeing it. How do I start to see this for myself?"
Okay, I got a story.
Okay,
I have two stories.
Sure.
Let's see if we have time for. Well, we got lots of time, right?
Yeah. No. If we're still going, we're going. So
we're going. Okay. So I had this experience years ago, and it's kind of funny. Just bear with me for a moment. It'll get okay. Sure. I'm on some kind of retreat. It's not about 40 years ago, and been doing long meditation. But I'm now walking outside by myself. And suddenly I start feeling terrible, really bad. I said, what's this? I've never felt like this, ever. And I felt like I became disconnected. Nobody was home anymore. I wasn't related to anything. I was alone in the universe, and I did not feel good. I said, what? What is this? I said, I hope it goes away. So 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it started fading again. This bad stuff started, this bad feeling started fading again. And I went to my normal experience. And I said to myself, wait a minute. That was my normal experience prior to this experience, and it's my normal experience now. But I didn't know my normal experience was blissful, knowledgeable, infinite. And I didn't even know that. Mm-hmm. It was just there. It's been there so long. It's so natural that nature had to kick me in the wherever and tell me, show me, take it away for us a little while, that this expanded stillness and feeling of infinity was there. I think that everybody's like that. Everybody, not the horrible part, but the part that this stillness, this knower, how did you put it? The awareness of awareness. It's there for everybody. Everybody has self-awareness. Come on, you couldn't be alive. You couldn't breathe if you didn't have it.
That's right. It's natural. Yeah.
So maybe you only have 5% of conscious awareness of self-awareness. Therefore, you're mostly not aware of it. You can have glimpses. So my point is, I think it's relatively obvious. My point is that I believe everybody has this much greater degree of self-awareness than they think, and why aren't they experiencing it? In many ways, I believe they're not experiencing it simply because it's too natural, too simple, too just there. So the acknowledgement of it or the expectations of what it might be are way too high, certainly for the early days.
Yes.
So that's one thing. That makes sense to you?
Yes, totally. And I think it would be it's helpful for everyone listening. Okay.
And the other experience, since I said I do 2 stories, I'll do another story. At this time, I was a kid of 9 years old or 10 years old. I was in Toronto, Canada. Grew up there, going to school. I had to get on a streetcar to go to school. So I get on the streetcar. I had my dime. That's what it cost to get on the streetcar. I dropped the dime into that. It was a big metal box like this, and I could hear the dime filtering down to the bottom and clanking.
I remember those.
Do you remember those too?
The change things, yeah.
Yeah, the change. Yes, it was a dime.
Yeah.
And I was just a little kid, very introverted, very shy. I wouldn't relate to people very much. I was just my own energetic little guy. But then I looked up, and there were 20 people or whatever sitting on that streetcar. They were all sitting, and they all looked at me. And I looked at them. And never had this experience quite like this. I went into this stillness, and I saw 20 pairs of eyes shimmering in that stillness. And I knew beyond a shadow of doubt that these people were exactly like me, in the sense that even though they're there, they were not strangers. They were my own family. And I had this unified sense with these people. And this only took like 5 seconds, but it felt like I'd been there forever. And this was probably my first very clear experience of this unified inside, outside, one experience. Everybody's the same. I could see their lives in a moment, their ups and their downs and this, and just like me, no different. I walked down the aisle. I sat in a seat, and I never got off that bus. I never got off that bus. To me, as clear today as it was then. And guess what?
What?
It only cost a dime. Hey,
you got it. You got such a deal.
What a deal. I got to go to school. And I got this experience for a dime.
That's great. That's great.
But
That's
that's how
wonderful.
natural, it's just going to come naturally to you, to anybody. If it can come to a, introverted young Finn, it can come to anybody.
Yes, yes.
These kind of unified experiences.
Yes, and
So
I do think that the interest in this comes from that same source.
yes,
So everyone listening to this, most of the people listening to this, if not all of them, have an interest in this, and
yes,
so that's the source calling itself home.
it's beautiful. Yeah, that's exactly right. And I feel that all the time. It's like a cosmic magnet, and you're the
Yes,
iron filing going towards it.
yes,
And,
yes,
and if I want to add anything to that, I said, you're not going to get lost in the magnet. You're going to live in that magnet. You're going to
yes,
live in that wholeness. I don't believe, that's me. My wife calls me a very selfish person for experience because I want more and more, and I don't care how much I get, I want more. And I don't view this self realization as the end of anything. It's a green light.
yes,
Every stage to me is a green light. There's always a little more and a little more and a little more. It's not like suddenly you're in the no self experience or the all self experience or whatever self experience you're in. It's not the end, it's the beginning.
yes, yes.
That's how I look at it. And I
That's
think
beautiful.
I like that. I like it that it's the beginning.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So, do you
So
have
if
any specific questions? I love
well,
your
yeah,
questions. They're
one.
great.
So if you were going to leave people with uh, what would you leave people with if you were going to say, hey, this will help you to stay on track, to keep opening to this, to cooperate with the pull that's already right within you? How can you be the most cooperative?
There's two or three things here. And one, I would say, find people who actually know this stuff, like you and other people like you, and talk to them. Because half the experience of waking up is knowledge, knowing, getting it. The other half is the experience, but ultimately they're the same.
Yes.
So talk about it, do a journal, think about it, go in that direction, find people who you believe who are genuine. Whatever's coming out of their mouth is the right stuff, and you know it
Right,
in
right.
your heart. Associate with those people, go to
Yes.
their lectures, talk to them, whatever. I recommend this fellow right here. He's good. He's one of probably the best interviewer I've ever had. Very natural. So do that. That's number one. But also, like, let's say you want to be strong. You're a 98-pound weakling. I could have been that 98-pound weakling. But so you start lifting weights. Now, inherent in the muscles is their ability to get stronger and bigger. Lift weights, lift weights. Muscles get bigger, bigger, bigger. You don't know how they're getting bigger. They're just getting bigger and stronger. And someday you'll lift that heavy weight with one arm and you won't even think about it.
Yes.
Consciousness, pure consciousness, is just like that. You have to exercise it a little bit. Thinking about it, self-inquiry is one thing you do, but there are other things.
Well, give me just a couple of examples of the other things. Self-inquiry is one of the tools that we
No
teach,
question. Yes.
but I'd love to hear the things that you've seen are really helpful to people. One or two.
Well, for me, I have to say meditation has
Yes.
done miracles for me. Okay. And I'm not going to ignore it. I'm going to say it was, when I started meditating years ago, and I did TM, and, so I can say that works for me. When I started meditating in my early 20s, I was already in some kind of witnessing state
Yes.
all the time, 24 hours a day. I had no clue. So when I started meditating, I did a technique.
Yes.
And I went, so, with a mantra, whatever, went inside. And as soon as I did that, that witnessing started disappearing in the sense that I was separate from it immediately. So I did this technique. And I believe that any technique that's subtle and has been developed by the right people will work. It doesn't have to be TM. It can be some other meditation, some other teacher.
Yes.
It can be, I don't know what, the Sedona.
Right.
What I've read about it sounds very subtle. Sounds like it can enhance your life. The reason that almost everything works that's done correctly is because that knower, that experiencer, that self is a self-existent reality in every human being. Every human being is designed for. You don't have to be smart. I'm a good example of not too smart. Well, I consider myself creative, so no. But you don't have to be a good artist. You don't have to be smart. Your physiology, your senses are designed by nature to expand, to have an experience of that self. You're designed that way already. You've got the brain. All you need is a head and a heart. Most people have that.
That's right.
Hey, you don't have to look very far for that. I do emphasize understanding a lot because self-awareness is already there. How do I get there? How do I make the journey? You become a seeker. And a seeker can use techniques. Self-inquiry is one technique. Understanding what causes the problems is another. And are there techniques to directly deal with the problems? My way of looking at it, if I've dealt with a problem, it's always been at the source.
Yes.
It's easier. It's simpler.
Yes.
I don't have the brains to be a psychoanalyst or a psychologist. Right. I don't have the brains for that, nor do I have the temperament for that.
Yes.
But I do have the temperament to say that if you can develop self-awareness, conscious self-awareness, not just self-awareness, but you have to be aware of it. If you can develop that through a technique, through understanding, then that will begin to dominate more than the stresses and the strains of life and the ups and downs of life. They start to dominate more, right?
Yes.
I mean, what do we want out of life anyway? We just want to be happy, don't we? I mean,
definitely.
I don't think we want anything else, do we?
No.
I mean, what if we go after knowledge or divine experiences or whatever? We want to be happy.
Right.
Guys climbing a mountain, doing wind gliding, surfing, whatever they're doing, you're looking for the thrill of the self.
Yes.
Well, you always, we're not looking for anything else.
No.
Right? The thrill of the self. And
yes.
And we want it to be permanent. We want it to dominate it so much that when we get up from meditation or whatever, it's still there. After all, if you close your eyes, you're doing something. You're on a technique. You're in the inward direction. You're on the path. You want that path to come out from inside to outside. You want something. You do a technique. Your eyes closed isn't the result of isn't the fulfillment of the technique. Your eyes open in daily life. That's where we want to have the fulfillment of whatever technique we're doing. We want it in our regular lives.
Yes, totally.
Where else would we want it?
Right.
Well, there's so many people, they go in, they get more and more in, and everything's inside. And it's all, but we didn't come to Earth to just go inside. We came to Earth to go inside so that we can have that experience outside.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Perfect.
So I'd say there are many I don't know much about mindfulness, but you probably know a lot more than I do, but it sounds like, as long as you're not straining and, staring at a flame for 50 hours a day, or whatever, and you're straining yourself. Natural, simple techniques work. Why do they work? Because you're naturally going to go in the direction where there's more happiness, more expansion. And that's the self. The self has that magnetic quality to it that almost anything you do takes you in that direction a little more. But you got to get it. You got to understand it.
Yeah. Perfectly said. Thank you. Yeah. I often tell people you can't get this wrong.
You can't.
Right.
There is the question, why aren't more people awake? I can only say that they just don't know it. Many people, particularly long-term seekers who have done whatever they've done, prayer, meditation, they're monks, they have very high expectations. Their teachers and mentors and gurus have told them you're going to be in 24-hour bliss, you're going to be a master of everything and all this stuff. And I'm not denying that those kind of things can happen, but maybe not day one.
Right. Yeah, but everybody wants it now.
Yeah. Let's go for the self, and that's pretty simple,
Yeah. Start what's the most natural. Yeah.
Yes.
That's great.
It's I think many people, when I was a kid and I had an experience, I don't know why, but I had this thing. I got to hang on to that experience. I got to hang on to this experience. Most people lose their innocence and their this, and many people, the kids feel the self, they have some natural ability. They're experiencing the self because they're innocent. Whatever they're experiencing, they accept. That's it. Boom.
Yes.
And somehow you stop accepting, stop acknowledging that experience as people grow up. Mm-hmm. I know that people do that because I could see that happening to me from time to time. But being a greedy kind of spiritual seeker, I just stick around. I like that.
Right.
And I think, there is a quality to waking up that as if you've remembered something.
Yes.
Right? There's a memory quality to it. And I thought that out one day, and I thought, well, where's that memory quality come from? The memory quality comes from the fact that universal consciousness and human consciousness are infinitely spread out through existence forever and always has been. So you've missed it somehow. You not realizing that anymore. So when you get there, so many people, when they wake up, and I've certainly been around people who have woken up, will tell you just what you said. I've always had this experience.
Yes.
This has always been. Why did I forget it? Why did I forget it? Well, I think you have to forget it every day. And you have to forget it nonstop. And all that. You have to make an effort to forget it. And in some ways, you could look at problems arise because of that forgetting of the big self. The so-called little self takes over.
Right.
That little self that rules the roost most of the time, right?
Yes.
Ultimately, there's no difference between the little self and the big self.
Ultimately,
if I was going to say anything about relative life or the little self and the big self, you don't give up. I never gave up anything in my search for more and more. I didn't give up eating or drinking or having a good time or whatever. I didn't have to give up anything. Now, often seekers will come and they get a teacher or guru, and well, you got to behave like this, make the path narrow. You can't drink, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but it can get a little absurd too,
Yes, I've seen that.
and certainly after, I found that everything piles on to you, piles on more and more. But you're a bigger space, so more fits in. You're a
Yes,
bigger
yes,
wholeness,
yes,
so more fits in, right?
yes.
And eventually, even God fits in.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Harri Aalto. You can learn more about Harri and read his observations at harriaalto.com. That's HARRIAALTO.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe so you have immediate access to future episodes. Please give us a 5-star rating and share it with the people you care about. If you'd like to learn more about my work, my mentor Lester Levinson's work, and the Sedona method, please visit www.sedona.com. As you explore our site, you learn the key to lasting happiness, success, peace, and emotional well-being. We have books, courses, events, and plenty of free material to explore. Again, go to sedona.com. That's SEDONA.com. Thank you for being here, and we'll catch you in the next episode of Letting Go and the Greatest Secret.